Okay, so here is 7.4, and this is adding and subtracting rationals with a different denominator. We've spent a whole lot of time talking about same denominators. Now we're going to talk about how we do things with different denominators, and so there's definitely a pattern to do this. So first of all, you have to find a common denominator, or what they call an LCD. That's what you have to do. What is that going to entail? Well, it's going to entail you actually factoring things, which is what we're going to be doing. Factoring. You're not going to lose factoring, by the way, unfortunately. Okay, so, here are some steps. Now I'm going to talk through these steps here eventually, but just to talk through these steps, here we go. And I'm going to show you all the steps with different examples, so you'll be all good, okay? So, factor the denominators completely. Factor completely. Factor completely. Okay, list the factors of the first fraction, so you're going to list everything out. And then you're going to list the factors of the second fraction, which you're going to see about how we're going to list all those out. You're going to combine it by doing this. You're going to take the first fraction and you're going to list them. And then you're going to put the second fraction, just talking about the denominators, you're going to take the second fraction, that denominator, and you're going to pull out whatever's not included in the first one. Again, I'll explain it. So, factor them, list the factors of the first, list the factors of the second, combine, and I'll show you how we're going to do the combination. Okay, so I did this one in complete from start to finish. You're asked to say, hey, what's the LCD of 7 over 6x squared and 2 over 9x? So the first thing that you do is you factor completely, and you have to take the denominators and factor them completely. Remember how you do a factor tree? Like if I did 6, this would be like 2 and 3. Those are the factors of 6. That's factored completely. So my 6x squared, that's the first denominator, is 2 times 3 times x times x. Okay? Now I list my second fraction denominator, 3 times 3 times x. Okay? So, factor completely, list those factors, and now I'm going to take the first, I'm going to list them all down, 2 times 3 times x. This is the denominator, the first denominator. Okay, then I'm going to look at the second denominator, and I'm going to add, well, when I say add to it, it's actually multiplying. The second denominator, what's ever not there? Well, 2, 3, x and x. Well, I got 2 3's down here, so I got to add another 3, and I already got x already there. So I have to add to that, or we're going to be multiplying, things that are not listed between the two. So in other words, what I'm doing, I'm taking everything. The least common denominator is take everything that you see. That's what you're doing, taking everything that you see. Okay? So multiply these all together. 2 times 3 times x times 3. X times x is x squared. 2 times 3 times 3 is 18. LCD, 18x squared. Okay. A little bit of work, but not bad. Okay. What about if we have these rationals in here, these expressions? 3 over x plus 1 and 5 over x minus 1. What is the LCD? Well, I factor, and anytime we factor, if something's factored completely, I put parentheses around it. So, factor the first denominator, that's x plus 1. Notice, parentheses around it. Factor the second denominator, x minus 1, parentheses around it. So, what I do is I take all the factors of the first, well, it's just this one, and I got to add to that the factors of the second, adding means multiplying, combining, which is x minus 1. Notice, if they're in parentheses, that's a group. Don't break up the group. That stays as a group. So my LCD is this. X plus 1, x minus 1, all in parentheses. Okay, combine by multiplying. That was the key here. Combine by multiplying. Okay? Okay, kind of dipping our toe in the water a little bit. Now let's actually find something that's a little bit more work to be done. So let's take a look at this. Factor the denominator. Well, what's the GCF of what I have here, which is 5x, and what's left is x plus 3. Remember how we're doing this. When you factor out something, it's like you're dividing by 5x. Whatever the GCF is, when you take it out, you divide by it. Great. And 9 over factor this, which is x plus 3, x plus 3. Okay, good. Great. The factors of the first, 5x, x plus 3. Combine that with the second. Well, I got an x plus 3. Oh, I got another x plus 3. So I put that down. All these are multiplied together. This is a good answer. Now, could I condense it a little bit? I could say this, 5x. This is x plus 3, but I have 2 of them. Either one of those are sufficient. You could put the exponent up here. That's fine. Okay. Okay, I did this one in total because now we're going to add things. Instead of finding the LCD, I don't care about that anymore. Now what I'm going to do is now I got to add things together. But the first thing I have to do is do the LCD. So this was the first problem that we had. The first problem that we had was like, hey, by the way, this is it. Do the factors of 6x squared, which is over here. You already knew that. We already did that one. Factors of 9x. It's over here. We already did that. You knew that. Combine them here. You already knew that. We already did that. And here's the LCD. There's the LCD. Great. That's step 1, well, or 2. Factor, find the LCD. Okay, so I guess that's second. We've done 2 steps. Now I have to make a common denominator. How do you do that? I take the LCD, and what I do is, and I'll actually erase this. I'm going to erase this top to show you what I've done. Okay, when I look at this, I take the LCD and I write it on the bottom. I write it on the bottom. I have 2 fractions. I write the LCD. That's my common denominator. That's what I put down. So you'll put down the LCD. Here's your question that you ask. How do you get from here to here? What do I multiply this by to make it look like this? Well, the answer is I multiply it by 3. So you multiply it by 3. But whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So 3 times 7, which is 21. What did I multiply this to get to this? You multiplied it by 2x. Whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top, which is 4x. Now, adding and subtracting fractions, when you have a common denominator, you just add the numerators. So 21 plus 4x, can I combine those? The answer is no. You can't combine an x with a number. No sirree, Bob. Don't do that. This is your final answer. Your final answer. Okay, so now let's do this one where we were talking about this one in the early example to find the LCD. Well, there's nothing really to factor because x plus 1 is already factored. There's nothing to factor here. The x minus 1 is already factored. Notice I put parentheses around it to tell me that I've already factored it. So my LCD, take the first factor, which is x plus 1, in parentheses, that's one portion. Now the second one is x minus 1. You combine them by multiplying. Now, you already knew this, we already did it. So now what I do is I put both of those in my denominator. Notice, I take my LCD and I put it in the denominator. Because now I just have to find my numerators. Okay, cool. So what do I multiply this by to make it look like this? Well, I say, what's missing? Well, look at this, x minus 1. I got to multiply that to the top. Multiply this by x minus 1. So this is 3 times x minus 1. Well, what about this guy? How do I get from here to here? You already have the x minus 1, but you need the x plus 1. 5 times x plus 1. Now notice what I've done. I put the number in front of the parentheses. Now there's a reason for that. I put the number in front. Now I can combine things. Now the best thing is I can combine these things over here. So I'm going to distribute. So this is 3x minus 3. Distribute, which is multiplying this outside by everything. So it's 5 times x, which is plus 5x plus 5. All over x plus 1, x minus 1. Combine like terms. Got to always combine like terms. That's going to be your last step just to make sure that everything is done to complete. So 3x and 5x is 8x, minus 3 plus 5 is 2. Over x plus 1, x minus 1. Keep those things in parentheses. Okay, keep those things in parentheses, and just in case you can't see it, there you go. Okay? That's an x minus 1, by the way. Poor writing. Okay. Subtracting. What if I have something like this? Now look what I got. X over x minus 3, and then I just got a 1. You can always make the 1 a fraction. How do I make this 1 a fraction? Well, I could say it's this. X over x minus 3 minus 1 over 1. Well, there you go. I made it a fraction, and if that helps you, that's what I would do. What is my LCD? My LCD, well, by the way, there's nothing more that I could do with this x minus 3. It's just x minus 3. What are the factors of 1? Well, that's just 1. So I would just multiply this by 1, or you could just say my LCD is x minus 3. Cool. That's my LCD. That's pretty easy. That's good. So now I'm going to put it down. My LCD is x minus 3. Put a minus there. X minus 3. Remember, take your LCD and put it in the denominators. Do not fill in the numerators just yet. So the question is, how do I get from here to here? Well, I didn't do anything. So leave the x. Leave the x. Now, what do I multiply? How do I get this to look like this? Well, I got to multiply by x minus 3. So I multiply this by x minus 3. Now, I could put the 1 there, but it's just x minus 3. Now, here's where you have to know where this negative comes in. It changes all the signs on top. I'll say that again. This negative changes all the signs in the numerator. So when I combine like terms, I have this, x minus x plus 3 over x minus 3. Notice, the common denominator is x minus 3. Put it all over x minus 3. That's cool. But notice, it changes all the signs. This x was positive, it turned to negative. This was a negative 3, it turned to positive 3. You have to change all the signs. Now combine things. What's x minus x? That's right, it goes away. 3 over x minus 3. The reason that I put them in parentheses still is because somebody wants to cancel out those 3's. Do not do that. That's your answer. 3 over x minus 3. Just as a quick review thing, what can this denominator never be? It can never be 0. So x can never be 3. Because if I put 3 in here, 3 minus 3 is 0. So x can never be 3. Because then that makes that thing undefined. Okay? Next. Ooh, this one looks like a doozy. Okay. Step 1, factor. Okay. So the y plus 2 stays good. What's the GCF of 4x plus 16? We'll take out a 4, and you're left with y plus 4. Cool. What about this guy? Minus 2 over, what's the GCF of this? It's the y. Take the smallest exponent of the y. So take that out, and I'm left with y plus 4. Right. First thing, factor. Now I'm going to list those factors to find my LCD. The LCD, well, the factors of the first one, the first fraction are 4 times y plus 4. Well, let's look at the other one. Take everything that you see, Well, I see a y, so I'm going to multiply by y, combining. Well, I got a y plus 4. I've already put y plus 4. There's only one there. So the LCD is 4y. That's 4 times y. Notice I'm going to move the y over here. Y plus 4. That's my LCD. So I put it down in the denominator. 4y, y plus 4, minus 4y, y plus 4. Notice I left the numerators empty because I got to tell myself, how do I get from here to here, here to here? What's it missing? It's missing the y. So you multiply it, y plus 2. Notice it's missing the y, so I got to multiply to the numerator. Whatever happens in the denominator, I got to happen to the numerator. What is this guy missing? Well, hopefully you say it's missing the 4. So I multiply that by the top, which is 8. Now to clean this all up, distribute that. Y squared plus 2y minus 8 all over 4y, y plus 4. Okay? Now here's the kicker on this thing. I'm not going to do this tonight, or for you guys tonight. I will show you when we meet again on Tuesday, that this thing, you can factor this top. Well, I'll show you right now. You can factor the factors of negative 8 that add up to positive 2. Well, that's y minus 2, y plus 4. Over 4y, y plus 4. Well, look at this. Look at what happens. Oops, can't see it, can you? But if you did, look at what happens. The y's plus 4 cancel out, and that's my final answer. The moral of the story is, I guess, when you think you're done, you're not really ever done, are you? So, anywho. All right, last one. This is the more difficult one when I'm saying that you got the opposite factors in the denominator. Notice how the x's and the numbers are rearranged, and I don't like that. I don't like that at all. So I got to pull out a negative. I call it pull out a negative. Well, this first one doesn't really change anything, and I'm going to factor the bottom, which is 2x and x, and I've got minus 3 plus 1. Okay, that's factoring this. Now, I'm going to change this around. But I don't like this. I don't like this. Remember, you can't have that lead. When I was saying take out the GCF, I could never lead with a negative. So I'm going to take out a negative. I'm going to pull this out. So the first thing stays the same, which is minus. This is a minus, by the way. Minus 2 over 2x minus 3x plus 1. And I'm going to pull out a negative. If I pull out a negative, that makes this minus. Minus, because a positive and a negative makes that minus. And I'm left with x minus 2 over, when I pull out a negative, it changes all these signs. So I got 2x minus 3. Well, look at this. I've got something in common in this denominator. Oops, if you can see it. I got that 2x minus 3. Well, what's my LCD? Well, the LCD is 2x minus 3, x plus 1. Do I have anything more to add from the second fraction? No, that's the LCD. Cool. So my LCD, now let me try to let's see how I want to try to, what am I trying to do? I'm going to take this, and in fact, I'm just going to rewrite this, and I'm going to come right back.